Hey everybody, welcome back, and if this is your first time here, welcome. Today's topic is an eKit the world's best practice pad drum set? And I think the answer is yes. Let's discuss using your eKit as a practice pad kit, a full set of practice pads. Now obviously you probably, like me, you practice music on it, you play songs on it, but I want to do a little bit of different thinking today. Let me explain. Now, a number of you probably heard what I just said and said, yeah, no kidding. I get it. But hold on a second, because I do want to kind of throw a couple of ideas your way. As always, I only make a video when it's a topic that I feel really good about, or something that has inspired me as a player, and I want to pass that along to you guys. Or something that I think, maybe some of you just haven't thought about. And specifically, for those of you that do own an eKit or are thinking about buying one, start to think of it a little bit differently. So let's get into it. 3 things that I really want to talk about today. Practicing with musicality. Number 2 is the ergonomics. And then number 3 is the overall playability. First, a little bit of context. I've been playing drums since I was a kid, and I've played nearly every single day of my life, and I continue playing nearly every single day of my life. But, truth told, it's only been these last, call it 5 or 6 years, that I've really started practicing on a practice pad. Now, yeah, I've owned practice pads for probably 40 some odd years or whatever. I've owned many different types of practice pads. I've even made practice pad kits. But it's really only been these last couple of years that I have a structured daily regimen that I go through. I want to give a shout out to Tommy Igoe's Great Hands for a Lifetime video. That video is just spectacular. Tommy Igoe has a very structured path, if you will, for beginner, intermediate, advanced. And I follow a lot of that, and some of that I just have kind of inserted my own things from other drum instructors, other players that I really admire. So anyway, I have, my own regimen. Truth told, for me, these last, call it 6 years, 5, 6 years, I have immense joy starting my practice day on the pad. And as I said, I go through my regimen. But recently, not that long ago, a few months ago, for whatever reason, I just didn't feel inspired that day. And instead, I sat down at the kit and powered it on, and I did my practice pad routine here on the kit. My typical day is practice pad warm up, kit warm up, and then I play. Now when I'm playing on the kit, I'm working on songs, whether I'm working on new material or I'm working on songs practicing for church coming up this upcoming weekend, or just playing in general. I'm always doing something. One of the teachers that I follow had a great saying that I really love. It said, and I don't remember who it was, maybe it was Benny Greb, maybe it was Tommy Igoe, somebody said, don't practice while you play and don't play when you practice. Really separate those two out. And when you're practicing, technically your practice should not sound that good, because you should be practicing things that you don't do well. That's practice. Playing what you already know, that's playing. Practicing is trying to, improve your actual physical things, attributes on the kit. Okay, so back to today's topic. The real aha moment for me was a few months ago. For whatever reason that day, just wasn't feeling the practice pad. Now again, my regular routine is always start my playing with the practice pad. Instead, I sat down at the kit. But I did, instead of jumping into my kit routine, I immediately did my practice pad routine on the kit. And my head was blown apart, because all of a sudden my structure, practice pad regimen became so different on the kit. Again, if I'm mapping out to Tommy's Great Hands for a Lifetime, you start with 8 on one hand, each hand, single strokes, 7, 6, 5, etc. And he's got a whole different path. But just doing those, 8, 7s, 6, adding an accent here or there, playing it with dynamics, moving it around the kit, all of a sudden, melodies started coming out. It was not only the physical practice of the, watching your hands and making sure your motion is doing what you want it to do. It was the sound. It was inspiring. And that really kind of blew my head apart. From there you go on to doubles. And then, you go into triplets. And then all kinds of things. Flams, paradiddles, permutations, etc. And all of it played around the kit and adding in your feet all of a sudden just became, instead of your exercises, if you will, it became music. It was very musical, and that's my first point. The musicality of the practice just took on a whole new life. So over these last couple of months, I'd say at least once or twice a week, I'll do my practice pad routine on the kit, just to change it up. Now, other days, I'm right back at the practice pad. The practice pad should never be put aside. I am still a very big fan of the practice pad work. I can't say enough about it. What it's done to my hands, what it's done to my playing, and how it's actually transitioned onto the kit has been really life-changing for me, even though, I'm 55 plus years into being a drummer. I still feel I have so much more to learn. And isn't that the exciting thing about it? It's like, you're playing to always try to improve yourself, always try to be a better player. As you know, many manufacturers make practice pad sets. And I have owned my fair share of different practice pads. And, at one point or another, I've put together my own practice pad kit, multiple different practice pads, replicating snare, tom, floor, kick. I've even used low volume cymbals, etc. But the thing about it was, as much fun as they were, to me, it's just a physical motion. And that's okay. I mean, that's what they're meant to do. It's all about muscle memory. And playing on a practice pad set, gives you that muscle memory. It's warming you up and getting all your limbs going. But it wasn't musical to me. To me, it just wasn't a lot of fun. Again, I totally love playing on a single practice pad. I do that all the time. But the practice pad kit, just not my thing. If you do it, that I totally get it. Not putting it down. I'm just talking about me, talking about what I do. My point number 2 is the ergonomics. I'm sitting at the exact height where I play when I'm playing an acoustic set. 14-inch digital snare, 14-inch digital hi-hats, 18-inch digital ride. My setup here, which I just changed over the last couple of days, and we went from a 2 up, 2 down, and I switched it to a 1 up, 2 down because I just like to change things up. And I have an auxiliary snare here on the side. Anyway, the ergonomics of practicing on the kit again transitions my electronic playing onto my acoustic drum playing, because at church I'm always playing a 4-piece kit. So here I can replicate that extremely well. My point number 3 is the playability of this kit. Again, I'm using a Roland set, digital pads, etc., using a V71 module MIDI to a TD50X. I have Superior Drummer 3, I have Easy Drummer 3, I have a bunch of expansion packs. I have, all the gear that you possibly could want. Great pedals, etc. But today's video is not about saying, hey, you got to have this. I'm not talking about that at all. That's not the point. Any eKit will do, because what it is you can set it up. You can set up your eKit to replicate an acoustic set. What I'm talking about is the musicality, the ergonomics of it, and the playability. And that's my point number 3, the playability. The playability of this kit is just astounding. Digital snare, the digital pads, the hi-hat and the ride, it gives me that true sound, and it makes you play in a way that's very similar to an acoustic set. Meaning, when I hit the snare here, it's different than when I hit the snare here, or cross stick, or rim shots, etc. I'm playing an actual drum, if you will. So the playability of my practice is at another level, because now all of a sudden I have real music, real sound that I'm working with. So again, I'm not saying you need to have this kit. You can do the same, albeit maybe you don't have positional sensing on an electronic set, but you can still mimic it. You can still, go do press rolls near the edge and, pick up your dynamics and work on your flow, actual sounds of playing with different velocities around the kit. That's where the musicality of an electronic set becomes just so much fun. And there's the word, it's fun. Practice should be fun. Yeah, it's work, but it's fun. We play drums, we don't work drums. So what I found was doing my practice, my sticking routines, if you will, on this kit was real eye-opening to me in a number of ways that was positive that I talked about, in some ways that were pretty negative too. Let me talk about that in a second. On the positive side, again, so musical, it's so expressive, it's so dynamic, and it was fun to actually just play your regular stickings, doing paradiddles across multiple pads, and getting those melodies, finding those rhythms. You're hearing things differently because now you're actually dealing with tone, and you're dealing with the the sensitivity of each one of the pads. As much fun as doing my practicing on the kit is, what I found is some things that sounded good on the practice pad didn't sound so good here. For instance, if I was doing 3-stroke rough, and if I'm doing that on the pad, you really hear those accents. Here, it started to sound like slop. I had to actually lower the BPM down and say, what the heck is going on? We all have those days when our brain just seems to disconnect from our limbs. I have those just like you guys do. And luckily, that's not that many days, but they happen. Anyway, what I found on this kit is there are certain things that, again, sounded really great to me. I thought I was doing well on the pad that didn't sound so good here, and vice versa. Things that I thought I maybe have been struggling with on the pad all of a sudden sounded better here. As an example, trying to do singles, doubles, paradiddles, and try to keep those strokes really even. Sometimes you really, because of the weight of the sticks and the sound of the pad, you always seem to hear something that's a little bit different. Well, here, when you're playing on a snare drum and you actually have the articulations from the snare, you can hear that, and you can really hear the evenness of it. Now, yeah, somebody could jump in and say, well, it's just hiding it. And I would say, is it? Or is that, if you took it to an acoustic set, it would do the same thing. So other things like hearing the velocity difference between my ghost notes and my accents on the kit, really hearing the difference between a true ghost note and hearing the accents really popped out. So again, most of my playing or most of my practicing is still on the pad, but bringing it to the kit here gave me these aha moments of things I needed to work on and things that I actually really liked better over here, and have since try to incorporate those things into my daily practicing here on the kit. And the last thing is, the sound of this kit is inspiring. I talked a couple minutes ago about the gear that I have, and I am a gear nerd. Those of you that follow me know that. I have virtually every drum sound in the world at my fingertips. So I can pull up anything, whether it's a heavy rock kit, a studio muffled kit, I want to get a jazz kit. I can pull it all up, and I can play in that style. And practicing with that style kit is so inspiring. It's inspiring musically, and it's inspiring to practice even more. I find myself not struggling to go through my practice pad routine now. Sometimes that time just seems to go right by, and there's a big smile on my face as far as the work that I got in that day. So that's it for today. I hope you find some of the things inside of this video that inspire you on your playing journey, your musical drumming journey. And as always, if you have any questions, hit me in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.